I never knew that I'll be collecting awards. It's just being devoted to the process. The more you are devoted to the process in the arts, there's always a magic of your life and always surprises that comes along and lessons that comes along. You'll find ukuthi eKaslam Abu Mama Betu, they were never allowed to fall in love with other guys from other townships.
What I want to know is that from a very young age, were you conscious of the economics of art? Like, what was going on in your mind in terms of making a living?
That's why I got to be introduced to Vusi Mdoyi in a bigger way. It got to introduce me later to VAP, not just a company, international. Maybe it's the first ever, most touring international Pantsula company.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of ABC, where we talk everything art, business, and culture. Today on our episode, we have one of the best artists in the whole world, Vusi Mdoyi. How are you doing, Khotman vandaag?
I'm tired. One of the best.
You one of the best, literally, Khotman, otherwise. And I hope like a lot of people watching will obviously get to know your career as we going on to as we go on with the podcast, because I really believe a lot of creative entrepreneurs, which are artists that have chosen to manage themselves, are going to learn a lot from you since you have such a vast amount of experience in the art industry otherwise, abo? So I think just for introduction's sake, so that a lot of people can get like the context of who you are and what have you done throughout the years. The first question could be obviously for you to tell us who you really are and obviously give us a glimpse of what you have done in the industry.
Sure, ne? I'll try to remember at least maybe 2%.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, my name is Vusi, known as Vusi Mdoyi. Even though we're given these middle names, which is Ngabo welcome. I grew up at Longwane, in Katlehong, which is one of the smallest sections amongst many other townships in Gauteng. So at Longwane we have 303 houses, and we are almost cousins to each other because in my era, you'll find ukuthi eKaslam Abu Mama Betu, they were never allowed to fall in love with other guys from other townships. So they would fall in love around the very same township. So we ended up like being cousins to each other. I grew up in that setup. However, my mom met my father at Longwane, but she was sent back to Transkei. But by then she was not aware that she was pregnant with me. Transkei, she went back to Transkei boarding school, and then later on she had to come back because she had me. As a result, I was born in a train on her way back, coming back to Ehlongwane in Katlehong Township in the east of Johannesburg. I came across art through links of being involved in other extramural activities. I was quite involved with sports, running short distances, 100 meters, 200 meters, sometimes long distances. I was involved in soccer. If I see young boys doing amazing things and having respect, from elders, via soccer, and then I'll join the soccer, and I'll always join great players. And even at school, I would always try to associate myself with people who are great academics, who get good results. And then when it comes to naughty guys, and then I'll also love, the naughtiness out of them and the smartness out of them. even though I was not that much aggressive, as one would expect. Ukuthi intwana yasehlongwane ehlongandlebe kwazafasa, would not be that much aggressive. I was introduced in art, through being involved in those extramural activities. But then it was not the art. Yeah, fast forward the story, there was a time we used to raise at home, about 3, if not 2 by 4 or 5 meters. It was just a small space, me with my friends, and then also at the backyard also as well, using our speakers wasekhaya, and later on we would rehearse ey'kolweni, and we had challenges ey'kolweni when we were rehearsing, because if ngabomajayivane, if anything happens, the window's broken, they will think that maybe it's you. Sometimes we would not rehearse because the caretaker is not around, with a key to open the gates for you, or to open the classes for you. Later on, I was involved in art centers, where we used to rehearse at the art centers when we were taking this thing much more serious, because we had to run away from homes, because they would always send us around, and they would not take this thing. It's a career, it's just an extramural activity. Fast forward, I used to admire a guy by the name of Fuma Seven, while after we had formed a group Namachita called Delta Tango Tango. It was me, General, General, it was Temba, he's late now, known as Strauss. We used to call each other Delta Tango Tango. And then later on, we joined other guys from the same Kasi. And then we called ourselves Chiocho. And even before Chiocho and Delta Tango Tango, we were just a community group raising a kaya. And then later on, it was not enough. I was getting more famous in the school festivals, and then also in the competitions. It was never enough. And then I had to go and hunt for a guy by the name of Uma Seven, Utami, who used to live in Mlilike 7. He was a great guy. He used to dance in the stadiums during soccer matches. And then I heard a lot about him. When people saw me dancing, and they would think that maybe I know him, or maybe I was taught by him, or I'm part of his crew. So I had to hunt that guy, and I found that guy. He was a very raw guy, street smart guy, not really disciplined, but he was, always on a journey of finding himself as isiPantsula. He would get to dance in Guma competitions in the nightclubs, winning bottles of alcohol. And then I was also lately introduced into that. Abu Kiskisi, Mimosa, Bangane, Mr. Pitasi, and travel around to meet amanye amapantsulas, other elders. Kuthiwa amapantsula, how do they dance? And then these ones, they bring these different types of styles. That, okay, there's amapantsula in Mushaking who are dancing in a certain way. Abu Rambo, Abu Snake. And then there were certain pantsulas in the West, Soweto, Central Johannesburg, who were dancing in a certain way. East Rand was also dancing in a certain way. As a young man, I remember I was about 14 by then. Yeah, I was 14 by then. Even at home, I would not tell them that I'm going to the nightclubs, because they knew that I'm a sports person, and then I would say I'm going to karate competitions, and we are camping, or we're going for soccer tournaments and all that. But dance became something that I gained more and more passionate in, and it got to introduce me later to Iva Katlehong, because when I saw Iva Katlehong, I would associate with myself there, because they were young people who were wearing same uniform, and I could relate with myself to soccer kid and professional soccer teams. And I would relate with karate, because if you're wearing a gear in karate, it means there's an association and there's a system. Somehow I had that kind of a discipline, because I'm coming from a family background. At my mom's place, they were encouraging us to go to school, but at my father's place, they were just free. Even if you didn't finish school, it was okay. But I think I grasped lots of talent from my father's place, because even my father, he used to be called Michael Jackson in making some moves. Ubaba omncane wami was a wire artist. He was also a painter as well. He was very good when it comes to drawings as well. And he was a comedian, even though they were not recognized as comedians. But everywhere where he would go and have drinks, and people would always be laughing. And even today, when we talk about him, it's always about jokes, 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 jokes. So I was made out of that. So hence the talent for me was never enough, and then to be mixed a bit with education. So when I saw Viva Katlung, it was mix of that. It was the sports. I saw sports, and it was amazing for me to see Ama dancers. And then I joined the crew around 96, 97. And then later on, I became one of the leaders of the crew around 1998. The leader of the crew left because he said he's got family challenges. He's got a baby now, and he's getting married. There's no future in the arts. There's no sustainability and all that. We have to take the costume and give it to another organization that has got that shares similar aims and objectives, things like that. And then I started to talk with my guys because I was coming from a bit far from them, because in Tlapo is right at the beginning of Katlung Township. Ihlongwane is right in the middle of Katlung Township, because I would always walk to go to those rehearsals. And then I convinced Amachita. I convinced to Stephen Faleni. I convinced to Michael Muloi to say, hey, we're free to let's revive the spirit of Viva Katlung. And we called, Vaya Katlung again. So we revived the Vaya Katlung, even though the first members that we had, most of them, they left because we were same age group. So we had to revive Viva Katlung. For the story, we were aggressive, we competed, we won competitions, we were the best crew in Katlehong. We were the best crew in Katlehong. You can Google about Vaya Katlehong, it's still existing. And then we built that community youth club into becoming an organization, and later it became a company, and further, not just a company, an international. And maybe it's the first ever, most touring international Pantsula company. Through winning our FNP Vita Dance umbrella, and we were introduced to the late Jackie Smela, who was very passionate about the youth and who was already well exposed with our Step Africa, UK, Step Africa, America, our Brian Williams, and our Khadija from the UK. And I was discovered also by them through Jackie. I think it was then 2001 when Brachik asked me if I have a passport and if I should make one. And then later, it was in September, I remember, and I got an opportunity to go and teach at Queen Elizabeth Hall in the UK. I was the first member of the crew and also the leader to go to overseas, even in my family and also around my community. And then that opened opportunities for other members of Viva Katlehong and other people around Katlehong Township. Because after that, after me, we started traveling, 4 of us, 6 of us, 9 of us, 13 of us. So far, we gave opportunities to almost 100 young people who are the first travelers ever in their family household, especially with isiPantsula, because of isiPantsula, as we know that it was never an art form. It was just a dance or amapantsula. It's illiterate people or people who are behaving in a certain way, who are tsotsis, who wants to survive via crime and all that. While isiPantsula is not really all about that. Even our parents, they know it. It was just a way of protecting ourselves, because when I say welcome to the problems that were created by apartheid, we tend to ignore what belongs in our backyards. So Wundlamu, isiPantsula, it was one of those. Even if we would go for auditions or go to other platforms, we would always be encouraged to transform in becoming something else. Meaning we have to take classes and of ballet or contemporary or Afrofusion and be in certain institution and have those certificates and be in certain companies so that you can be recognized and get an award and blah 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 and whatnot. But that helped us a lot because I that's why today I'm saying we are a product of rejection, because we had to learn how to survive on our own, open our own platforms, build our own platforms, and being able to have a self-reliance and be able to sustain ourselves while others looked into those institutions with limited platforms, and later on there was a lot of competition amongst themselves, and on and on and on and on and on, until later on I was pregnant. We taught with Vaya Katlong a lot, collaborated with hip hop artists, legendary hip hop artists, jazz artists, not just only as dancers, but as co-composers, co-choreographers. We collaborated with Abu Robin Olin, Christian Rizzo. We partnered with Abu Shatu Velon, with Abu Christian Tame. We performed in Shayo, which is one of the greatest theater festivals in Europe. We've been to La Villette also as well, where we took audience by storm. We did workshops. We workshopped, young people, around different communities around the world, and in the schools and also in correctional services also as well. And then later on, I became pregnant. I became pregnant because it was more of, okay, now it's a security again versus freedom. And I was pregnant. I wanted to work with a lot of many different organizations. I wanted to learn also from other people and partner with other people and pull resources with other people. So the idea came, of building Impilo Pantsula. Hence, we met with Uziluma Hero, Stelo, Klaba, and myself. And there was Daniela Kula and Joshua Mkwena. At the end of the day, we ended up like being three of us. The aim at the beginning was to protect isiPantsula and to have a film and also have a book that will be protected by an association. We never wanted to personally attach ourselves with that kind of a milestone. We wanted it at least to be protected by a system, that belongs to isiPantsula culture. And later on, we felt that maybe a movement is a good way for many different reasons. After consulting with the legends and inviting many different people and younger people and even people who are older than us, yeah, through my journey, I done a bit of things, also around the corporate, working with Abu Somizi and learning a lot from Abu Somizi, Abu Lucia Cooper, and having to collaborate with other creatives out there, especially also in the corporate, and later on having to be exposed in the politics of so-called an art industry, which I call it a sector, because an industry, maybe it's a heavy word, to be called, because the sector, it has got a more of a creative human expression more than being a worker or a job, which translates to just overbroke. Yeah, so yeah, I'm here in Pilo Pantsula, working with different Pantsula, documenting isiPantsula, working with the city plaque, working, with many different organizations, even around the space. VAP Dance Academy Studios, I found a place, which is called VAP Dance Academy Theatre and Studios, which is an artistic residency. It hosts young people who are ambitious, who've got vision, who doesn't have spaces to practice their madness. We have them here. They are department to our services. We are a service, to their, departments also as well. It's a collaborative effort, and we also welcome different artists around the world, and build relationships and partnerships, and further link them with other organizations on the ground, while we exchange with them via isiPantsula, and also encourage them, to those who are interested, to build other branches as we build bridges for isiPantsula, as the mission is to globalize this creative human expression, that isiPantsula gave birth to. Yeah. So yeah, basically that is Impilo, and then that is also a VAP Dance Academy Theatre and Studios. And I'm a very passionate person when it comes to investing in the spaces. As we started with our own backyard studios, and I'm also founding member of a federation that communicates issues of alternative spaces, art centers, training programs, infrastructure development, and I'm also a co-founding member also as well of International Residency Network, which we would like to. We already started developing a new language. It's for now about 10, 11 of us. However, the number will increase a bit. We always meet after a couple of months in different spaces around the world, and I'm a passionate investor in the pieces of land. Hence, with Impilo Pantsula, we've invested in the plot where we'll see, what is it that we'll build there, whether farming, via agriculture or centers of excellence. And we already have communication with a chief, in Kwakwa for something else, which if it comes good, it's a great legacy also for the culture as well. Yeah, so that's Vusumzi. Welcome, Ulane 2.2 Makedlela, Mfana Sehlongandlebe, Kwazafasa, Mdoyi unyawo uthahla ufaku. Ungulane unqanqasha umalambile inyamazana umyeha umgcina.
Wow. Yo, Davi, that's a mouthful. Otherwise, that's a whole in profile in just a video. And you said a lot throughout your profile in a way. I've picked up a lot of art. So you've been in the art industry or art sector from a very young age. What I want to know is that from a very young age, were you conscious of the economics of art? Like, what was going on in your mind in terms of making a living? Because you knew you were going to be old at some point, you were going to have a family, you were going to have kids, and you were going to need to support your family. And at that time, obviously, there was political whatevers. So how did you think you were going to make money with art at that time?
Yeah, I'm glad that I was exposed into a fact that art pays at an earlier stage.
Wow.
Even though I was not financially literate. However, I grew up with responsibilities as a young man. Number one, my name is Vusumzi. It means wake up and build a home for your family and further build a village, with your community. So my name also came with a great responsibility as we grew up in a family household where you notice that your mom doesn't have a house. And after, especially the grandparents passed on, you start to realize that, hey, yeah, you are on your own really now, and there's lots of also politics, around the families, which those politics, I can't say they're negative politics. These are politics that makes us to be who we are. If we look only on the positive side of them. So I always knew in whatever that I'm doing, at some point, I need to make a living out of it. I had a mission to build a house for my mom and my siblings. I had a mission to build a house, a home for myself. And I also had a mission to build something greater, which I didn't know by then, with my community. So as I was introduced in the arts, lucky enough, I never chose to be a leader, but the leadership always chose me. Perhaps maybe it was through being engaged more and having more passion and making more follow-ups. So even good things, if they come, let's say we went for a competition, we would win money. I'm the first person to receive that money. I'm the first person to be trusted with that money, by the rest of the crew. Because already I was that person who was making calls and making follow-ups, shouting at people even during rehearsals, making sure the radio is around, stuff like that. Yabo. So I saw that, okay, all right. So if we receive 100 rands and if we split it with 5 rands and I have 10 rands or I have 7 rands, little bit more because I'm a leader and I have to push other things. Maybe I have to be reimbursed to get refunds and get extra out of that. So one had to really push more and more and more and to find more opportunities that really pays and knocking in different doors and asking questions that were relevant. So yeah, I don't know if I did answer
Yeah,
you.
it makes a lot of sense in a way. What I want to get is that obviously you were chosen to become a leader at a very young age. What do you think were some of the contributing elements of you being chosen? Like like kufila ukuthi Vusi could lead us, or we are self-elected leader.
I never had a mission to do things so that I can be elected to be a leader. So when I look at things now, leaders they go an extra mile, and leaders they have an eye, that other people maybe doesn't have, and they could see a certain view that other people doesn't have, and it's a person that people tend to trust on. So I believe on the actions, the karma of my actions, they led me to be called what I'm called today, that I'm a leader, and there were people who were believing in me, and I ended up like having subordinates or having partners. I remember even when we were at school, if we would have to go to rehearse, the first thing, I would always be, in most cases, I will always be the one who's wondering that the sound. Do we have the sound? Do we have the venue to rehearse in? Do we have an access to the key? Siphelele na, you understand that if we're supposed to be 10, and I would always be the one who was always worried mostly, we are 9 instead of 10, making extra calls and even making extra effort to revisit or to visit even friends who were staying way far. And when it comes to recruiting also as well, I would see a player to say, this one, I know this one. If he can join my team, he can be we can be a complete team. I would start behind, my other guys to go and visit that guy and make friendships with that guy and start to teach him what we're doing, so that by the time he comes to us, and then he will be accepted. Because I know how strictly we were. So I broke some certain codes, but for recruitments, to recruit people, to my team. I think those things, having to arrive a little bit earlier, and before we got to delegate people, arriving a little bit earlier and make sure that the class is clean, or we can access the class. If there's a challenge or there's a problem, you will be the one of the, those guys. For example, in the leadership, it was me and Stephen and Michael, and the leaders will have to make sure that things are going smooth. So that, got to, to stick with me. Even when I joined the crew after, from the age of 10, 11, 12, and then having to access Abuma 7, having to the nightclubs and and whatnot. And then when I joined the crew, it was a typical, crew, which was a youth club, and they would only wait for the leaders to tell them what to do, which were the elders, or how to dance. So me already, I would come up with ideas with, because maybe you watch Shell Road to Fame, or you saw somebody dancing in a situation. No, let this one be a doctor, or maybe, let's do a story of a hobo, or maybe, and I was always, being put in the leading characters. Then, so even when the leader who left us, he was amongst people who also elected me to be an executive. To be amongst the executive. Hence, when the group was dissolving, and then I had to take an initiative and go to Stephen and Michael to recruit them. and then to say let's revive Viva Akatlung Bafit, you know.
Wow.
And same applies to Impilo Pantsula, hosting meetings. And because before VAP Studios, I used to have a garage, a double garage with a mirror. I used to call it Studio 9. Also as well, it never started here. It started way back, and I would host Amachita with Impilo Pantsula, and we will always have 24/7 talks about isiPantsula 24/7 and where we would want to take isiPantsula and do. So I think these are things that made me to be the leader, not because of I was positioning myself, but because I had certain other passions.
Wow.
Which maybe communicates or what should be called a leader.
That's super dope. As a leader, I know that we're not all leaders. So as a leader, you might find yourself in a group of 10 people. There's only like 3 leaders. So it's almost like an outcast in a way. Is there any disadvantages or misfortunes that you have experienced due to the fact that you are a leader? Maybe because now you're leading us, and now you're losing friends. What are some of the disadvantages you have experienced because of being a leader?
Can you rephrase it?
What are some of the disadvantages that you have experienced because of being a leader? Because you didn't start as a leader, like elected as a leader. Obviously, you were a dancer, you were dancing, you were amongst them niggas, like you were with them until you were a leader. Now, as a leader, you have to now lead in a way.
Yeah. It's these things, I think they're happening. They're happening everywhere. They're happening everywhere. Umuntu nomuntu namatwaitwai wakhe, and we all coming from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Different family backgrounds with different beliefs, and some of people have low self-esteem, and some people will measure themselves to others in order to feel better for themselves, and others will always be concerned if applause, they always go to a certain direction and whatnot. So these are things that comes with it, and some you especially if you are same age group, right at the beginning, if people never had a confidence in this thing. For an example, isiPantsula, we never knew anyone who's successful in isiPantsula as isiPantsula dance. I'm told. And some of us we had that little bit extra more than others, and having a certain belief and having a follow-up, and we never had a backup plan. Others, they had a backup plan. So when things started to happen, fruits started to bear in and being available, to be consumed, and people obviously would start to want to claim that we were together, for an example, or this thing, we did it together, which is, yes, we pull resources together and whatnot, but sometimes it comes out of envy or jealousy. And some, we start to have girlfriends, and then later on some start to have wives, and the wives will always ask why. Maybe they always compliment this one, and while we are a team, and like, no, it's us who task him to do this, and they want to start to do stupid things and want to appear nice. Some of us, we were always rough and tumble and not being in suits or casual smart and whatnot, and people will start to change their characters and want to be smart and want to show up that they are managers or they are leaders, or they're leading with you, or maybe they are better than you, and they will start to have smaller recruitments somewhere if it's a team. There's these things, man. It's normal. They always happen. We as people, we are backgrounds that we coming from, what shape us to be who we are.
Wow.
Wow. So that's illness.
That's
illness. That's the illness that we have as people.
Part of the diseases.
It's part of the disease.
It's
part of the disease.
Wow. Before we leave this topic of leadership, I just want you to advise, even if it's 2 or 3 advices that you would give somebody that is currently a young leader.
Yeah, you can be trained to be a leader. As long as you are passionate about leading people, because you feel that because leadership comes with certain power. You know, you have a certain power to make certain decisions that other people cannot. You have certain power to make decisions. Even the majority doesn't like those decisions, and you've got that power, and people see that there's that kind of a power, and they want to use it in a proper way, and they love to be leaders. Number one, they have to be in love with the value that needs to be offered. They have to be in love with the mission, you know, that maybe that organization or the friendship or the company, you know, is embarking on. You know, if he feels that he can carry those, you know, aims and objectives, but with others, obviously, and that person has got almost enough reasons, you know, to carry himself as a leader and further learn from other leaders, because there's different leadership styles and leadership traits also as well, and they work differently, you know, either in the sports, you know, either, you know, certain athletes, athletic, you know, activities, and also in the arts. People are different, and they need to be led differently. You know, they don't really need to be managed. You can't manage people. Yes, maybe sometimes you can be able to try to manage the situations, but yeah, but mostly leadership, it has to come from the within, you know, and or coming from inchisagelo, a desire, you know, to change something.
Wow.
You know, not because of a position, and also the leadership that comes with elections also as well. It's another leadership, because it for me it differentiates between who are farmers and the hunters, because in most cases when it comes to, you know, those battling of leadership, you know, without a balance and a harmony, it comes along all these challenges. You know, you might get a hunter, you know, to be elected more than the farmer, because in most cases the farmers, they don't want to appear as people who are claiming for positions and leadership. They just do, and things just attracts themselves to that person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Davi, throughout the conversation we've been having, you're talking a lot of art, and you are very passionate about art, like passionate and successful. The question is, have you ever encountered a point where you wanted to quit art because of certain adversaries?
I have never ever wanted to quit arts. Never. But I have been in many situations where I wanted to quit situations, not the art, the situation or an environment. If I feel that I've hit the roof, or I'm pregnant and I can't deliver, so it means I have a problem. Maybe the problem is not on an environment, it's me who is in not a good environment or good company.
Wow.
So yeah, I
You've
only face
never wanted
that.
to.
I never wanted to
Wow,
quit art,
wow,
because
wow.
art is life for me.
It's life.
Yeah, it's life for me. I never knew that I'll be collecting awards. It's just being devoted to the process. The more you are devoted to the process in the arts, there's always a magic of your life, and always surprises that comes along, and lessons that comes along, and you, and also a blissful feeling, you know, that always comes is a surprise. I never knew that out of just dancing, and I can be a choreographer, artistic director, directing other pieces, touring the world, you know, sharing, teaching, administering, creative entrepreneur, you know, ndibalando
Yo, Ninchi.
zininchi too, and other people, they go to school and concentrate on one degree and just get one title.
Yo, David, the way ukuluma ngakhona, I wouldn't say it's as if everything is smooth in the art industry, but ngasho ukuthi you've had a good you having a good career in a way. What are some of the disadvantages or challenges that you've had in the past?
Yo, a lot. Ngizoqala ngakuphi?
Ngicela ungayezi three that were the most, because I know vele ay ninja.
Sustainability.
Mm.
You know, if you haven't found yourself and having an understanding of the value chain of the field that you are in,
Mm.
you might face lots of challenges because you don't have a knowledge on how things work.
Mm.
That is a huge challenge. You know, sometimes being too exposed, too exposed in a way you would see, for an example, you know, we never chose our art to make us appear on television. You know, you are a creative, and then all of a sudden you are in the corporate, and then there's certain behaviors and attitudes and life that is portrayed to you, and then you tend to consume that. And you are right at the stage where you are not grounded enough, and you end up doing mistakes. You hold yourself differently. You look at other people differently than you, and you get to be exposed into a life and that you won't maybe afford or sustain, or that doesn't mean anything to you. And then later on you get to be stuck with that, and you want to sustain, and you forget to live, and now you live to maintain all that shit. I'm sorry to say.
No problem.
Yeah.
Podcast, no censorship. Those are two, Tavi. The third thing that you have experienced, highlight challenge in your life.
Sure, man. It's an environment where you're growing up, man. There's good and the bad and the ugly. Some people never survive because they never recognize that spark and got to follow that spark and got him out of that environment. But being rooted in that environment, because we're all rooted from certain environments, and it's what shapes us and what builds us. It's what shapes us and what builds us when we graduated.
Whoa.
Not when we are still within. When we graduated. Because when we graduated, then we have a choice to always go back and visit, and we have a reason of going back and because we understand the environment. But before, you think that the environment is the ultimate and it's the actual life itself. Kanti awazi ukuthi ngaphandle kwenzakalani. Kunabo bhutis banibani, kunabo bras banibani, kunabo uncles banibani, kunabo gogus banibani, kunama section anjani, kunama countries anjani, kunama cultures anjani, kunama religions anjani, kunama belief systems anjani. You understand?
Makes a lot of sense, Tavi. And Bengfunu Buza, something I wanted to ask if you think adversary is necessary for each and every person who wants to reach success at some point.
Adversary in what way?
Like challenges. Everybody needs to face challenges in their life.
Challenges are part of the process. The more challenges we have, the more wiser we get, the more we get to explore and tap into different fields, different surfaces, different levels. As long those challenges, they don't break us. As long the challenges, it's what will make us in the end.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not like at school, because at school, when you fail, you repeat the class. You know, even if you did good, and then if there's major subjects that makes you to repeat for another 12 months, you repeat another 12 months, you get to be punished for that. But, you know, in reality, in life, it doesn't work that way. You know, you always recognize, you know, where did I step and how did I got to walk this path, and which directions I used, and how can I maneuver with it. If I fail, and then I dust myself, and then look a little bit at the back, and then and continue to drive. But with the past experience, because you can always be paid, even not monetary wise, but you know, the past always pays. because there's still, others who haven't yet went through what you've already went through. So you can always fast track and contribute a bit.
Wow, Davi. That in layer in there, but when you're saying it to somebody who's currently in a challenge, it's very hard for them to absorb that kind of information in a way. So if somebody is like, Ish, I'm facing challenges in my life in this way, and when these are lessons in a way, because you have graduated that point. What are the three things that you would tell that person?
Maybe it's not three things, maybe it's one, I don't know. Give time, because I don't have a book with, stuff that I can say, I've researched about this and this is what should work for another person. There's a lot of things that works for people. It's different strokes, different folks with different challenges and different solutions.
Challenges that somebody is facing. I'm like, Davi, I'm facing challenges, and you need to advise me in a way.
No, get a person who's been on those challenges, because it's the one who can advise you better. Because if I've never been into those challenges, I'll give you a motivation.
So there's a difference.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between getting a motivation. Some they can grab a motivation and run with it, but not many. But in most cases, go to to a person who've been to those challenges.
Wow.
And sometimes in life, if a big doctor cannot heal you, maybe you must go and consult a small doctor. Maybe a small doctor has got more solutions. Because sometimes when you get the solutions up there, and while we've got people who always deal with that thing daily, within our environments or where we're coming from.
Always the mic.
Yeah, one. So it's better, because that person will take you by hand. Because he feels, he understands what you're feeling. He understands. He will go through that with you, through that pain, depth of that pain, and take you small bit by bit.
Wow.
Not just give you a solution, and say, I'm fit to know ngawari, this is life, mfana, we all fall, mfana, hayi. Ama challenges wethu ntwana hayi azokwenza ukuthi ube grand nani, hayi ntwana hey. Sizoba grand ntwana siyapusha, hayi yizo ntwana, or go to church and just pray and pray and pray. And maybe in your nightmares, and then a solution will come, and sometimes it's always great to go. And there's lots of people around us, and if you don't want to go out, there's Uncle Google, and there's Auntie YouTube, to go through those avenues and meet those people physically or technologically wise.
Davi, that's super dope. Okay, let's transition a bit, because I'm trying to understand the art industry in a way. 25 minutes. 45. 45 minutes. Oh, we left it 45 minutes. Oh, we've done 45. Okay.
Okay.
Davi, I'm trying to understand the art industry in a way, yabo? Because I have a lot of friends that are in the art industry. As I'm young, I have a lot of young friends that are in the art industry trying to understand the art industry. My question to you is, do you think the art industry is structured in a way that can easily enable artists to become rich?
It's not structured. It's not structured in that way that all the artists can be wealthy or be rich. You talk about materialistic stuff and money, economical wise, and it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Besides art, it fulfills. Besides money and we have lots of creatives in South Africa. I'll talk about my
Saloof.
Yeah, my the platform of where I grew up, which is South Africa. In South Africa, we have lots of creatives, recognized creatives and unrecognized creatives. Unrecognized creatives, you find them like Makasi, still in the community groups, even if they do professional works and whatnot. And they try to survive, singing Guma weddings. Others, they use street as an alternative, dancing Guma robots, and others, basking and we also have artists or creatives in the theater sector also as well. That also doesn't have enough because there's few platforms that were created. Few platforms that were created. And more artists are coming on the ground, from the ground. And for an example, in South Africa, we've got few state-funded theaters, fully state-funded theaters. Do your research. How many artists get to get their works in those theaters? How many artists get to be paid very well, even if they get their works in those theaters also as well? How many rejects does those theaters have or applications have? Corporate also, which is called entertainment and TV, which is, some of us would say televised vision and so much people are talented and then so much people wants to get into those spaces, but there's few channels and few platforms. During apartheid times, our people were never also taught on how to build and create opportunities, create jobs. Only minority or few people and certain quality type of an education was available to a minority, which the rest has to look for jobs.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so basically, it's not a challenge, creative sector only. It's a serious challenge because now it exposes us. We demand more creatives, but creatives to be creatives who can also be able to create platforms, create opportunities for others. We need more people who can manufacture factories that can give opportunities to so many of us. Yeah, and when you also look at the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation, I'll make an example. If there's a funding that is available for 10 people, not available for 10 people, let's say there's 10 people who are in need and they apply, you might find that maybe two, will acquire the funding. But out of the two, one of them never really received a full funding. And also again, there's this slavery mentality, that we as creatives, we always have to rely on funding because in these institutions, people were taught when it comes to administration that if you graduate to want to build a company, you need to be registered and have all these compliances so you can qualify for funding. And then, yes, here's the funding, you do that project, and then after that project, what's next? What will sustain you? Yeah, boy. So we have that. Hence why we have people who are sleeping at the National Arts Council for almost 2 months.
What?
Yeah, that's what is happening. And you have lots of creatives who are always complaining about opportunities. Hence, also again, our government doesn't really give enough attention in building the creative sector. I hope that they would understand how much we would need this sector because this sector helps us to build creative leaders. Our family structures are broken. Leadership, it's broken. careers, are broken. We don't have creative people anymore. And and arts and culture, they communicate challenges that are prioritized in the country. If you communicate crime, arts and culture has got solutions for crime. You speak of health, has got solutions for health. Education, it's got solutions for education. Creative leadership, it has got solutions to all of those things. The healing, it has got solutions to also those. History, being a world commodity that is uniquely found in our backyards, which is arts, all that. It has got a lot of solutions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yo, Davi, throughout this conversation, I've seen, I've heard a lot of we need to build platforms in a way. Building platforms is, I would say, it's not easy at all because it's like building a business model that will enable other people to make money within your business model. That's what a platform is in a way, must. So, what are some of the doable ways you are seeing you think artists can use in order to build platforms?
True. It always depends on a person and an environment where he grew up in, and challenges that he faces in most cases. With myself, for an example, with the little that one has always been getting out of the small opportunities that one has got to develop, and the partnerships with other people, and having other people to pull resources with, saving to invest in my craft, it helped me a lot. Now, we have a space. That space also helps other entrepreneurs. It saves them to pay office, rentals, resources rentals, or a shortage of resources, because whatever that we have in the space, it also helps others to build their companies. As they build their companies, and out of maybe one person's resources, and if they continue to also do that, it also multiplies to the next person, because other people will complain. They'll say they have ideas, because to dream is so free. To have ideas are so free, but to be practical, and then people will mention resources, and some, they would say, no, I never got an opportunity maybe to perform and get something. However, it also starts with a mentality, to educate ourselves about the importance of having that science of being able to design opportunities, and also platforms. So with the little that one has got, then managed to do what, to build in this type of artistic residential studios. And then at some point, sometimes other people, they come for rentals, other people, they come for residencies, and out of those residencies, you give other artists discounts, for accommodation, and then say, no, you can pay 50%, and while here you've got too much of freedom, and you don't even have to book an accommodation and take an Uber to hire a certain studio, and then that studio, they charge you. It's a residency. They have an access to the studio. They've got access to resources also here, and they're in touch also with other entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs who are around, and they also get to network with others also as well. That is business. On the other hand, we're building productions. The money that we also get out of those productions, we've got what is called stockfell. We get to understand what our gifts needs, basic needs. But those needs, it should be needs that communicates being assets. Those assets is what will accumulate, something extra, or a revenue that will have an input towards building something else. I'm just using practically, what I'm already doing, and also investing in spaces. As much as I know that I need multiple streams of incomes, because sometimes my art no one buys it in, maybe for 6 months or 3 months or something like that. And I don't have to be desperate to create based on I really, really, really need to survive.
Mm. Mm.
Yabo. So I invest in houses, ekasi, RDP houses that have got title deeds, that qualifies to be sold, for an example, and it's affordable. And to buy them, renovate them, put rooms for tenants, and it's a passive generational income. Even if you don't have a gig, you still continue to build your craft to the fullest, and you're still devoted to the process. So that's one of other things that I also do, as a side hustle, and it's something that doesn't take my art life or time away from me. And also, collaborations. You have something that you know, and I've got something that I know. There's something that I don't know that you know. Same, the relationships that we've been building around the world. You get a person, because sometimes our success is proportional to how many people love our work, how many people we know, how many people wants to support our work, how many people believe in our work and believe that they can also benefit from our work. You find such people, that can be able to sell your product and have a bit of a share in your product, and you also give them a stake. And while they are a department to your company, and while you are a department to their company also as well, for different platforms, and people who've got expertise in other different platforms. Theater, it works differently. For example, also opera theater, it works differently. Music, it works differently. Museums, they work differently as well. So you need to be able to partner if you want your work to be on all these, spaces. The understanding of the value chain of the industry or the sector that you are in, and start to look for other people who did other things that you are not aware of within the very same sector. And look for other people, how do they also invest and what it means to them. So for me, saving to invest in a passive generational, and we also build our own platforms by building our own festivals as well, supporting each other in attending those festivals and injecting incomes also as well. And with people, whom I'm working with, we always have these conversations that, okay, if you've got a little, if you've got 10 rand, maybe sometimes just close your eyes and take 5 rand away, and then you're left with 5 rands, and it should be your principle. If you could not manage to do that, out of 10 rand, at least even if it's 1 rand, throw it away, but for a certain purpose. Hence why we bought cameras to shoot ourselves and tell our own stories. Do our own documentaries, do our own films, and pull resources with other young people who've got certain expertise in other departments, so that we can have share interest with share investments, and shared dividends. So that's another way of building platforms and building investments, because sometimes somebody has got a certain power that he doesn't realize that he has got, and somebody has got a certain expertise, but it doesn't have, a power to access certain resources. So we can be able to also do it in that way also as well. But it's always important that we get to be workshopped and be in same frequency, in same spirit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
lots. There are not a lot of people who are really, really, really successful in life. There's few. There's few. So we need to tap into like that, into the thinking of those few people, because remember, the difference between a person who's not successful and a person who's successful is their mentality, how they think, and how they look at life.
Wow.
So we also need that mental shift, that mental transformation, to be able to see into that, because it's not. I cannot say this is 1 or 2 or 3. It's a mission on its own.
Wow.
But it's a very interesting mission and a very fulfilling one if you can invest time in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting, David. Otherwise, as artists, you find yourself, Jorge, the biggest thing that you need to do as an artist, especially when you were grown up, you need to sell your art. So selling your art obviously communicates entrepreneurship. Do you think every artist needs to be an entrepreneur?
Um, Artist freedom. At the end of the day, however, if you need a shoe, it's in an exchange of a coin, or we can barter. If I have something to barter with you, we like it or not, we need to be exposed in financial literacy. I don't want to say entrepreneurship, into financial literacy. We have challenges, especially as black people, especially Makasi. Life here it is not just only us. We have other people to take care of. We like it or not. We still have to contribute, Baba. I understand. Those who got a little bit of a light, a bit of an opportunity there and there, still needs to contribute something. And that's something, it can be knowledge and blah, 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 but also financially so. Because let's remember, when we talk of money or finance, it's not a magic. You understand? It's a science. We need to be introduced into that science. Because we might find that if people, they choose to be entrepreneurs, they can. Or if they want to be investors, they can. You know, there's a lot of people who've got access to cash, security cash almost every month, but they make maybe, you know, wrong choices by falling into debt right from the beginning. Instead of, you know, saving that money and communicate a certain language, that when the bank, you know, understands that terminology, starts to give this person certain opportunities, that person gets to have an access to certain assets that will double his income without him working for that income. So he can have a second and a third income, and then later invest in other things, and then risk to follow his or her passion. So I encourage, I'm not saying all artists should be entrepreneurs. I encourage a financial literacy.
Financial literacy.
Yeah.
Super important.
Yeah. And also investing in understanding ourselves. Yes, we want to be artists, we want to be on TV, we want to create, we want money, but we have to understand, what is this? Who is Vusi? You know, how come this Vusi, and how this Vusi connects with everything that is also around.
Wow. Wow.
You know, that is also fundamental.
Can we please commit like an episode where we just gonna talk about the financial literacy of the art industry?
Yeah, Kiftana, we can call others who knows better, way far better than me, and who have achieved way far better than me. You know, Minangi Pantsula, Joe, and I'm in a culture and a sector, you know, that I'm one of the people who are, you know, busy trying to build it, young tall. And obviously the future generation maybe are the ones who are gonna make it more than, you know, us. So there's already people who knows even better than me when it comes to certain other departments. I would like to commit.
Yeah.
However, I would like us to invite other people so that we can have a depth, you know, conversation.
Wow. Thank you very much, David.
Yeah, relevant people who are also specialists when it comes to that.
Wow.
Yeah, not a person who's all over the place like me.
That's super fantastic. Davi, I want us to close the interview now, but I want us to touch on something like briefly, not briefly actually. Mfuna, even this our last topic in a way, but it's gonna be large. isiPantsula. Before we get deep into it, what do you think about isiPantsula?
It's life.
It's life.
Yeah. It's life. Impilo. life, Pantsula. It's people.
What is currently happening in the Pantsula industry right now that a lot of people don't know?
Yo, Pantsula Joe, they are vaker now. Pantsula, it's an industry. We are building our own sector, Baba. Yeah, Pantsula starting to be alert. Pantsula, we're building our own brands. We are aware that we've been supporting brands that never really contributed back to us. And it's not a revenge. Now we are free. Yeah, well, and we know that freedom doesn't come for free. And we are a product of rejection, and we are happy that we are rejected so that we can have self-reliance. Pantsula Pantsula Friday, Baba. Yeah. So push me manje. You know, all these people are manipulating Pantsula and think they can get isiPantsula service for a change. Things are starting to get tougher. You know, it's an alert. Yeah, Pantsula, we're getting smarter and smarter and being more exposed and understanding ourselves more than ever. And we're traveling the world. We're getting exposed into the world. Yeah, bo. We are African ambassadors as Pantsula. Check around. Impilo Pantsula is touring all over. VAP left, right, and center. Vusana, footnotes, Center for the Least Good Idea, Umahambi, Umtungo. You understand? The Purple Sky, Ecstatic. Yeah, abo Smart Pantsula out there. You understand? Abo Red Devils out there, the re-election Pantsulas. Yeah. And others will still be revived because they have a lot to share.
Yo, Tavi, and there's this thing. It's a shoot. Tavi. Yeah. Tavi, there's this thing we were talking about, ne? Oguti, a lot of people don't know, Oguti, there's a big possibility that isiPantsula is probably traveling more than even Amapiano.
isiPantsula have been traveling, you know, I don't want to say more than who, because it's not a competition.
Word.
I used to hear people on television sometimes, and then you watch an interview of somebody who is well known, you know, so in the entertainment and whatnot, and then they say, oh wow, it's great that they go to Los Angeles and then they go to Italy. Nah, it's good. But do they know Utiguna Pantsula? We've been touring like nobody's business. Since from 2020, the only year where I never got to travel internationally, going out of the continent, it was, when did the COVID?
2020, yeah.
2020 in March, we were supposed to go on tour with Ecstatic, with Impilo Pantsula. That's the only year where I never got to tour the world as isiPantsula.
And you've been touring since when?
2020.
You've been touring since when?
So out of 22 years, it's 21 years consistently, like with the consistency. So workshops, teaching, collaborations, performances, yes.
And what's the response of overseas people different from Ekai? How do they receive isiPantsula overseas?
Baba, get out of your place and get somewhere where you'll be discovered. You'll be a king. You'll never be a king where you're coming from. And South Africa is genuinely proud, unique culture, from music, dance. I understand. We are so you know, we are so very unique. We are a great commodity out there. As long as we're gonna be authentic and believe in ourselves and not try to be something that we are not.
Wow.
Yeah, we will conquer.
Yo. Otherwise, David, thank you very much for agreeing to do this episode with us. This was a mindful episode. I learned a lot myself, and I know and hope the people that are watching this episode are also going to learn from you. I hope this won't be the last episode on ABC with you, because there's just a lot we didn't touch on, obviously, because of technicalities, the weather, everything that involves, obviously, things we cannot control in a way. But otherwise, thank you very much, Mantavi. Thank you very much. I appreciate your presence here. And if we have a bit of battery, maybe if there's something you wanted to highlight or you would have liked me to ask you that I didn't ask you.
Ngicela sithatheleni isiPantsula serious. isiPantsula is proudly genuinely us. It's not just a dance, it's a culture, it's a survival. There's a lot of history in isiPantsula, there's a lot of qualities that isiPantsula carries. isiPantsula, there's no division. We can talk about democracy or democracy, but isiPantsula, no one can say, I'm Zulu and isiPantsula belongs to me, or I'm Sotho, isiPantsula belongs to me. isiPantsula belongs to everyone, and it's been influenced by different people from different parts of Africa, especially in the SADC, who came to work in the mines and later on formed these beautiful cities. isiPantsula, it's a worm that was born under oppression and has got a great future. And there's a lot of carriers that will still coming that are still coming from isiPantsula. Watch out the space. Tawushelela mabhuluku.
I thank you very much, otherwise from me, Captain Duma, and Vusi Mdoyi. I thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Lilo.
I thanks, Sabia.